Welcome to the game that never sits still. I'm Anything Lacrosse, and here we cover box lacrosse, sixes lacrosse, rumors, stuff that's going on in the NLL, anything that's really going on in the lacrosse community, and we'll be talking about it in here. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, stay tuned for the podcast. All right, let's get this started. My name is Jake MacDonald. I am Anything Lacrosse, and my whole goal in this podcast is to bring attention to the lacrosse community, as well as bringing up-to-date information to you guys as fast as I possibly can, right? So my plan is to be doing 2 podcasts a week, especially once the season starts. Maybe in the off season I might do 1, but we'll talk about that going down the road. So this is my first official episode. So welcome. Thanks for being here with me if you're still here and giving me this much of your time, to be honest with you. Last season, I fell in love with lacrosse. Box lacrosse specifically, but I'm also, enjoying sixes so far. A little bit of tweaks there. We can get into that later. But I really enjoy box lacrosse, okay? I started watching it during the All-Star break in the NHL last year because there was nothing on, right? We had the Four Nations tournament going on, and we had a lot of time in between there. So I decided, you know what? Let's turn on. It was on TV. This is another thing. The NLL really isn't exposed that much, so it was on TV. It was kind of like a perfect storm. So I said, you know what, I'm going to watch a lacrosse game. I've never done it before, and I think it could be interesting. Because I have seen lacrosse, my nephew plays and all that stuff. So I ended up getting on and watching Buffalo Bandits versus Toronto Rock. And if you've seen that game last year, I think it would have been February, sorry. You would understand why I was such a fan. That is probably, if not the best game, one of the best games, okay? That I still have seen to this day. Now, Toronto Buffalo obviously have such a an amazing history, such a good rivalry, and the fact that we're only going to see them once this year is pretty sad. But it's always going to be a good game. But that game specifically was a banger, and that's what caught. If I was a fish, they hooked me, man. They got me. I'm in love with this sport. So then I kind of started, right away. I started watching the games obviously over the course of the week and stuff, in that weekend, and they pretty much had me. After about my third game, I was completely hooked, right? So even after that first game, really. But so then I started watching it while I was watching hockey, obviously, and I just kept getting deeper, and I started looking into, who's making content for this, and nobody was. So I got on TikTok, and I had a little bit of a following, not too much. I think I had around like 2,000 followers from doing other stuff just throughout the years. And so I started posting kind of, throughout the rest of the season, and just, starting to learn stuff about lacrosse, starting to learn about the players, starting to learn where everybody came from and all this stuff. And I'm a huge history guy, so I started looking into the history of the teams. And I noticed that nobody was really doing any lacrosse content, or at least box lacrosse content, on TikTok. So I started on TikTok, and I've built up to I'm sitting just above 4,500 followers currently. So it's amazing. I'm starting to build my X. I think I'm at just 50 X followers. It's a little bit higher than 50, 56, 58, whatever it is. But, I'm just posting on there regularly. I'm trying to do since August, the middle of August, I'm going to say. I've been posting 2 to 3 times a day, pretty consistently. I did take 2 days off in there just because I needed a little break. But, the nice thing about this is when you love what you're posting, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It's just more that there was nothing really going on and I needed a break, kind of. So that's the only thing. But I'm and that refreshed me, really. It did. And I love this. I love this app. This sport is amazing, and it's fantastic, right? So with all that being said, now I'm starting a podcast, and I'm doing this because, again, I was driving home from Ontario this last weekend. I had to drive there, drive back straight. So I had my father-in-law with me on the way there, so I drove there with him, just listening to music, shooting the shit. On the way back, though, I was kind of, I don't know if you've ever been musiced out before. I mean, I think I get like that sometimes. I enjoy listening to music like every other human being does, obviously. But, I already listened to, I basically did 14 hours straight on the way there. So talking and listening, on the way back, I was like, I think I'm going to try to listen to some podcasts. Now, full transparency, I don't really listen to podcasts, right? Now, I have listened to podcasts here and there, but I'm not a podcast person. I don't listen to podcasts like crazy. So if you're still here at this point, thanks for being here. But I have really enjoyed podcasts. Now I've listened to more podcasts probably this week than I have, the rest of my life, to be honest with you. So I started looking around for lacrosse podcasts. And again, there's not that many NLL podcasts, and we've got pages shutting down right now and all that stuff. So I figured it's my duty in order to start a genuinely good podcast. Now, what makes me, the reason, or what makes me a good fit to do a podcast, and I think it's one thing is, you can, it's always been like, what can you get up there and talk about? Well, I can sit there and talk about lacrosse all day. And I just did it with my brother-in-law for an hour and a half this weekend because he's a massive lacrosse fan, right? So when I went to his house when I dropped my father-in-law off there, we ended up talking for an hour and a half just about lacrosse. So that just, kind of, all right, it's time to start a podcast, right? And there's no other good not no other good podcast, but there's a lack in the community. There is some good podcasts. Shout out, Lacrosse Classified. Another one is the Creator Game, right? Love that one too. But I would like to put my own spin on this. And again, what kind of makes me a unique, what makes me unique here is I don't have any playing experience. I'm just a fan. And that's the thing I notice about a lot of these guys that are in the lacrosse community are all, they're all former players, because that's a lot of times how these people find lacrosse. And I think that there's a whole other avenue where we can get fans in. We just need to, the product's there. The game is amazing. The product is fantastic. So now you just need to get eyes on the product. That's all this is. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to help get eyes on the product, and hopefully we can, grow this game together, because it is, like I said, there's such a good cultural tie to this game, but there's also just like looking at it purely as a sport. It's the fastest game on 2 feet. Like I said, it doesn't sit still, and it's just an amazing game, right? So why not try to get out here and improve it and get eyes to it, and so we can keep building this game and getting these players paid, because this sport is got to be up there for one of the hardest sports, and the fact that it's not exposed enough is crazy, and it's so exciting. So let's get right into it. We've got the CBA negotiations going on right now, and this is very high stress. We are in what I consider like an overtime situation. We're really getting to the point that these players are going to have a hard time getting visas. They, they're going to be a shortened training camp possibly. And, if we don't get this done, I would say by the very latest by the end of next week. But I'm talking like this needs to get done this week. And, I was listening to Lacrosse Classified's podcast today, and I listened to it last week as well. And so I've heard both sides. Now, obviously, you don't hear everything from both sides. You're taking everything that is being said at face value. But I will say that when I listen to these two talk, like Jamie Dowick, which is the owner of the Toronto Rock, and then I can't remember right off the top of my head who the two guys were, but from the Players Association. But one's a retired player and one's a current active player. And, basically, Dawa came out and said the league's not making money. A lot of these teams are losing money. I've been waiting 15 years, and they keep promising the money's coming, and it's not. And basically, all this stuff. You need TV deals to get the proper revenue in. Okay, cool, right? I can understand that. At the end of the day, this is a business, right? For these guys, it is a business. Now, a lot of teams, he also said there's a few owners that are just propping this league up. And you know what? He might be right. I'm not doubting that, right? Because I see the attendance numbers. I did a whole video on that, on these attendance numbers, so I know they're not the best, right? Now, not all teams, don't get me wrong. The Buffalo Bandits have an amazing turnout. Halifax has an amazing turnout. Calgary's numbers aren't bad at all. And then I'm sure there's a couple other teams that are pretty solid too. But you do have a few teams that are, not doing the best. Now, Albany has now moved to Oshawa, obviously, so I think that's going to be an improvement in numbers, because just from what I'm seeing already, the community is embracing them. And I've heard a lot of hype. I've heard a lot of people say they're going to go to the games, all this stuff. So when it's something new, something's new, that does happen. So we'll see if those numbers hold up, and we'll see what the numbers actually are. But I think because of where it is in the mecca of lacrosse, I think that it could. I don't think there's going to be an issue putting, getting people in, as long as you keep the tickets at a reasonable price, which I don't see they're not. The tickets for lacrosse are fantastic. So with all that being said, transparency is a big key thing, right? So from the players' side of things, That's the biggest thing, is that they don't know how hard to push. They said they want to get the best player for the best deal for their players, but they also don't want to push it so far that they're going to bankrupt the league. So the players are being pretty reasonable when they say stuff like that, right? They understand that, the money's got to come from somewhere, but also in previous past negotiations with other sports, when this all comes out, the owners always cry that they're not making enough money. And then when the numbers come out, it's not as bad as they made it out to seem. So this comes back to where transparency comes in. Why are we not having transparency here? Why are the numbers not being released? Right? Just release the numbers. Then you don't have to worry about it at all. Then you can make a fair deal get done. If you don't release the numbers and the numbers aren't fully transparent, and the players already know that they're not going to get that. They were saying that basically when they went on Lacrosse Classified's podcast. They were saying they're unfortunately probably not going to get full transparency here, but they're getting more of it. So, and eventually next time, hopefully, that they'll get the full transparency. They also said that they're open to a long-term deal, a 5 or 10 year deal even, but it has to be the right deal, right? And so I don't think we're going to see a 10-year deal. I would like to kind of see a 5-year deal just so we don't have to go through this again. Now they have from what I'm hearing, right? Everything that is going to be talked about in contracts is all subjective to change because it's all in a negotiating process. But the Players Association also said they're ready to be locked in a room and hammer this out until this deal's done. So where are the owners? That's not what Dalek was saying, right? He didn't say, I'm ready to go sit in a room and get this hammered out. Now, he's only one vote. I will say that. The guy's got balls for coming on and to the podcast and airing it out like he did, because I don't see any other owners stepping up to the plate and doing that. So we should feel lucky that he has at least done that. And I do respect him for that. He also said something, they has to pay $750,000 to the league just to be just to have a team, which I think, again, what are these league executives getting, right? So this is the thing. Should a league executive get 4 to 6 times the amount that a player's getting? I don't think so. We have veteran caps, veteran maxes, right? And again, the NHL still technically does this too. I don't know if I'm in love with that, to be honest with you, because if you want to spend the cap the way you are, let them do it. Who cares if they want to? If you want to give, let's say your cap is, let's say it's $500,000. Let's just say it's $500,000 for your cap. If you want to give Lyle Thompson $250,000 to come play for you, and you want to spread the rest of that money out, and that's how you want to manage it as a GM, that's to me, that's fine with me. But what they're kind of doing is they're making it more so it's going to be a veteran max and stuff like that. So we'll see. But the other issue with this is that makes it kind of an unfair advantage, which again, I mean, this is just sports, right? But they're going to be able to, from what I understand, this can all change, right? But they're going to be able to offer you the player a job. So let's say they can only give a player $50,000 max, right? Veteran max, 50K, whatever, 55K, whatever it ends up being, right? What's going to end up happening is what they're going to be able to do is they're going to be able to offer these players jobs, right? So, hey, one of these guys, they have a car dealership, go sell cars, and we're going to write you a check for, $200,000 a year or whatever it is. So there's still going to be that. So Buffalo, even though they're going to have somewhat of a hard cap, if they can just offer guys jobs, this is all make believe, right? Like at the end of the day, you can fucking swing it the way you want, but this is make believe. If you can just give players jobs, but at the end of the day, I do think that with the way the league is right now, you're going to want to keep your big markets happy, right? Because at the end of the day, these are the ones that are really running the league, at least if, what they're saying is true. And, we need to get more TV deals done and stuff, media rights, all that kind of stuff in order to bring more money in. So anyway, that's kind of that section of it. But it's really interesting to see all this different stuff. And we'll see if this CBA gets done. But sometimes I think they're close, and then other times it sounds like they're far away. So I'm just hoping it gets done. I think the worst thing for everybody and it would lose everybody money, right, at the end of the day, except for the teams that aren't making money, I guess, technically. Those would be the only teams that would be happy, essentially, is what I'm saying. Would be the teams that would be not losing money, right? are losing money, and some of the teams that are losing money probably have billionaire owners that just want to see lacrosse. Well, like Georgia comes to mind for that with their owner, right? He's just dumped money into the sport of lacrosse to grow it. So when you have an owner like that that's just willing to invest in lacrosse, um, amazing perk to have in the league, right? And he's just done so much down in Georgia for it. So, and I mean, he has the best player in the world there, right, in Lyle Thompson. So, and I mean, look at his goaltender in Dobson. So, like, they got some pieces down there. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off tangent here. Basically, the CBA we needed to get done sooner than later. This is hurting everybody, and we need to get official training camps started. Free agency period needs to get started. We haven't even talked free agency yet, and I haven't really I would love to come on here and be like, oh, this team's gonna do good, this team's not. I'm not doing that until I see the the final roster, not even the final rosters, but just what the rosters are gonna look like. But we don't know yet. We got Buffalo. I listened to their AGM talk and talk to anybody that's not on his team. So anybody that's UFA on his team, he's obviously went and approached just to give them where they're at. But as far as other teams, I've heard other teams have approached other players. I think it was Vancouver that came out and said that. Could be wrong there. Don't quote me on that. But that's a big thing too, right? So we'll see what happens there. But the CBA really does need to get done because it's just hurting everybody by prolonging it out. And the fact that we're at, like I said, we're in overtime of this is absolutely ridiculous. So get it done. And, let's move on with our lives. And once that happens, you're going to see the floodgates are going to open, and we're going to have a lot to talk about and all that stuff. So that's my 2 cents on that. Another big thing that's going on in lacrosse community right now is the Super Sixes tournament this weekend. And there's a lot of young guys going to this tournament. There's a lot of veterans going to this tournament. It's going to be a really interesting tournament. I'm going to be watching it. It's streamed on, I think it's their YouTube channel. They're going to be streamed on. The NLL might even stream it. I'm not sure. NLL Plus. Once I find out, I'll figure that out for you guys. I'll be posting it on my socials and all that stuff. So go give them a follow. X. I'm on X. I'm on TikTok, obviously, as I explained. But so Super Sixes should be really good. We're gonna have some big names there. We're also gonna have some. We're gonna have some, younger guys, and it's interesting because in the Olympics, by the sounds of things, you're only gonna be able to take 10 players. So that's, you're going to need 2 goalies. So that's only eight guys out. And, or I think you're going to need 2 goalies. I would assume it'd be really interesting if they didn't bring an extra goalie. But who knows what'll happen. Maybe you'll be able to bring an extra goalie kind of and have him just off to the sideline and not officially a roster spot in case, and then if something does happen, he can kind of come in for the next game or something. I'm not really sure. I would assume they're going to run with 2 goalies, 8 players. So you're probably going to have 2 defensemen and 6 forwards, I would assume. And that's going to be interesting, right? So when you start breaking it down like that, there's not that many spots on the Olympic roster. So when you look at this is going to be the cream of the crop, the best of the best. And you're going to see some of these smaller countries now maybe slightly a little bit better because, some of these countries have a couple players that are top players, but then it really falls off where you have Canada, the States, and Haudenosaunee that, obviously have such a pool. And it's going to be disappointing, to be honest with you, to see Canada not dress some guys, the States not dress some guys, and Haudenosaunee not dress some guys. Because Haudenosaunee, man, but it's an honor to play for your country. And this is the thing, you're only going to take the best of the best, and that's what's going to happen. So Super Sixes this weekend in Oshawa, which is going to be kind of cool to see what the turnout's like there. I think it's going to be pretty good, but I can't wait to see the crowds because it's going to give us a little foreshadowing to see what it's going to be like going to the NLL season, I think. And if you see a big turnout, it's going to be great for the game of the growth. And this is I think that 6s, I like 6s, don't get me wrong, but I think it can be tweaked. And I've heard a lot of people say the same things that I'm saying. So a couple things that I'm saying is nets smaller, okay? We need smaller nets. These guys are world-class lacrosse players. They can put the ball wherever they want. You got to give the goalies more of a chance. Now, I will say Dobson, when he played net, he was doing fantastic. But poor Puerto Rico in the last Sixes tournament I watched, the goalie had 5 saves I think he had 5 saves in I can't remember how many goals he let in, but 18, something like that. But anyway, he had only 5 saves. Like, that shows me that the net's too big, dude. I love high scoring games. Don't get me wrong, I love him. Love high scoring games, but it's almost too much. I prefer to see skill games. So I want to give the goalies a little bit more of, stealing games, like hockey a little bit, right? Because even the NLL, right? A goalie can steal you a game, and that's what I love. So smaller nets are one. I think they should get equipment as well. I'm not a huge fan of the field style goalies. Give them some fucking equipment, guys. Like, give them some equipment, okay? And you're going to see, again, they're going to be a bigger impact. It's going to really determine and make a difference on what goalie you have in net. It really is. If you have, if you have a stud like Del Bianco, or, even Dobson, man. Canada's got some dynamite goalies. You have Hill. I could just keep naming names for Haudenosaunee, right? So it's like, and he's playing this weekend, actually, Hill is. So I'm interested to see how he does without the equipment. I'm sure he's going to do fantastic. He's a world-class goalie, don't get me wrong. And he's a big boy, you know what I'm saying? But so we'll see what happens there. But, it's an honor to play in these tournaments because you're representing your country or your, Haudenosaunee, their territory. And it's going to be really, really fun tournament. So I'll be watching it, streaming, and all that kind of stuff. So to come check it out, we'll be doing that. Let's talk about who the best player in the world is. Now, I kind of did a poll, or not a poll, but I kind of asked this question. And basically, there's the 3 guys, in my opinion. There's 3 guys in contention for this. And if you want to tell me there's somebody else, please put it in. But I just don't see it. But there's 3 players. So we have Jeff Teat, captain of the Ottawa Black Bears, top scorer in the league last season for the NLL, just won the championship in the PLL, which I think gives him quite the advantage over all these other players playing field and playing box. Because a lot of these guys just play box, and when you go to play sixes, it's a bit different game. So I think having both experiences at such a top level really shows why when Jeff Teat goes out to these sixes tournaments, he absolutely lights it up and carries the team, right? And not saying that Canada has some really good guys, but Jeff Teat was on a whole nother level that last tournament. So we'll see how he does. Obviously, he's going to be on the Canada roster. I can't imagine him not being there, especially about that time. He's going to be such a veteran presence on that team, Mr. Captain Canada for lacrosse, all that kind of stuff. Next guy would be Dane Smith. Dane Smith is probably the best playmaker this league's ever seen. Like, he's going to break records this season or next season, right? He's going to break the most assists record. Probably most points record. Like, the guy's just absolutely phenomenal. He's got obviously some great help over there. Buffalo dumps a lot of money into their program. They've got an amazing program. They take care of their people, and they've got this culture that you want to be part of because you got Tavares as coach, right? You've got their former dynasty goaltender as their AGM. So they just have these guys in place that are built around this culture of the Buffalo Bandits. And Dane Smith is, in my opinion, the best one, right? And not saying, obviously, look at Tavares' numbers. Don't get me wrong. It's a similar situation to Gretzky, right? And McDavid, right? It's like McDavid might actually be the more talented player. But, you can't, like, Gretzky did something that nobody else could ever do. No one's ever going to touch his records. And it's the same thing as, like, Tavares. There's records out there that, even actually, to be honest with you, Dane Smith is looking like he might break them. So, but Tavares was head and shoulders above everybody else in his thing. So there's some guys that are also, that's what I'm saying to you. That's why it's hard for me not to say Dane Smith is the best player in the world, because when I start talking like this, it's like, yeah, he is. But it's like, to me, the best player in the world is Mr. Lyle Thompson. If you watch him play, and I'm just talking about the eye test, I'm not talking about the points, because at the end of the day, he plays on Georgia and he's carrying that team, right? He's doing it, they need some depth, all that stuff. Lyle Thompson, if you watch him, he is the best guy on the field, the box, whatever you want to call it. That guy is constantly double covered. There's nobody like the way he is, the way his hands are, the way he's fast, the way he sees the game. He can just do it all. He can score, he can assist, top elite level. So when you're talking Jeff T, Dane Smith, or Lyle Thompson, I have to go with Lyle Thompson just as the overall player. But Dane Smith is obviously the best playmaker, and Jeff Teet's obviously the best pure scorer. So argue with me all you want, but that's my own opinion. Lyle Thompson all day. Now, why did I go with Anything Lacrosse? Because I really didn't want to be boxed into box, right? I want to be able to spread out, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to be talking about fully. So I just preferred to be spread out and tried to be able to cover everything. So even though I won't be covering a lot of field, I still like to say Anything Lacrosse because everything kind of crosses over. There's a lot of guys who play field. There's a lot of guys who play box. There's a lot of guys, now with sixes, right? So anything just covers anything. That means I can go to any level. I always like watching the prospects. I like watching the young guys coming up, seeing the next generation. If that's in hockey or lacrosse. I really enjoy that. And, I watched the Minto Cup this year. That was an amazing tournament, right? I got to see Trey Deer for the first time. I got to see Molosky. There's just so many big names there that are going to be future stars in the NLL. So it's really nice to watch that Minto Cup. And they are, they're top guys. If you look at guys that have came out of that tournament in the past, they just become the stars of the league, right? So it's kind of nice to see the next generation. So I really like talking about, prospects. I just applied I'm in New Brunswick, so I just applied for the VP of Player Development, I think it was. So that's just going to be helping, organize programs and all that kind of stuff. So I figured, again, I'm trying to give back to my own community and get involved, right? That's the main thing here. So hopefully with this channel, or this podcast and all my connections that I'm slowly making, I can help some guys from New Brunswick that maybe don't have a chance to be seen, that are amazing. Because I can tell you, I help coach my kids team, and I use that word coach very lightly, okay? That word coach. I helped coach my kids team last year. Now, he was in U10, so, they were very, very basic learning. Now, there were a couple kids that really stood out. Now, obviously, I think everybody played hockey, except for my kid, actually. But every kid that was really, really good played ice hockey. Now, my kid, he is also really good. Now, obviously, I'm his dad, I'm biased, whatever, but he was the best defenseman on the team, and he also took the most penalties. That's why I joke and say he's like little Tyson Bell. He's fallen in love with the sport too. And I always tell him, I don't want him to love lacrosse because I love lacrosse, right? And it's kind of coincidentally, he started playing and then I started getting into it. And that's kind of what made me get into it also. I watched that game. He was already he just started lacrosse because my nephew plays, right? And I'm big on trying to get him to taste everything. So he's in jiu-jitsu, he's in lacrosse, he's in football right now. He's played ball, hockey. I put him in soccer. I try to put him in baseball. I've got him. I took him to the boxing gym. I've got him tasting everything, because my thing is I want him to taste everything and him decide. So I've said multiple times, do not do lacrosse because you love it, or don't do lacrosse because I love it. I want you to do lacrosse if you love it. I don't care if you play lacrosse, right? I don't care. I don't care if you play hockey. I don't care what you play. You have to do something, but I don't care what you play. So, but there he is, man. He picks up a lacrosse stick every day. He's cradling the ball. He's got friends that love lacrosse. So the game is growing. When I look at this, I'm watching these kids, man, and they're loving lacrosse. And there's this kid that was on my kid's team, and he was his parents don't let him play contact sports, so I don't know why the heck they put him in lacrosse. But anyway, they put him in lacrosse. I don't think they understood what they were getting themselves into. And I'm telling you, this kid had the most fun of his freaking life, dude. He by the end of the season, he was last tournament, he was running with this kid was running with the ball. He goes up and he challenges this kid. He hits him and he falls over. I'm not gonna lie, he falls over, but he does make the kid stumble a little bit, and he does lose the ball, right? So but before he would have just watched that kid blow by him. So just to see that growth and development off somebody else made me another kid. That's what it's about. So when I was, coaching, I would just open and shut the door. I was in the locker room with the boys, right? We had the main coach, the head coach. He had playing experience, all this stuff. He liked the way I guess, coached, because what I would say was simple things. Keep your sticks up, right? Keep moving. Always be moving, right? Just really simple things. Shoot, right? Like get in front of the net, shoot in front of the net, right? Get on your side. So right, if you're a righty, you should be on the left side of the box. If you're a lefty, you should be on the right side of the box. So that's just these little things that they're beginners. They don't understand, right? And always keep moving. Always take your man, box, like get in the box and on the defense, right? If we're on a penalty kill, right? Even when you're not on a penalty kill, get in the star pattern, right? You got one guy attacking, like just really simple things, and I wouldn't overstep the other coach, right? Where he had other guys on the bench, because that's all we really did. I went up to him. I was already going to practices, and I was just kind of getting out there, and I was just helping them, right? There was about 4, 5, 6 guys, and you take a group of kids, and you just be there'd be 2 coaches, and you'd be showing them the drills and stuff and just walking through it, right? It's really simple stuff, right? So that's what I was doing. And so I said to him, we went to a tournament, the first tournament we went to, I said, hey man, do you want, if you need a hand on the bench, let me know, right? I can just open the doors or whatever. So he ended up, the first game he had it covered, but the second game he needed somebody. So he ended up pulling me on the bench. So I did it with him, and then I was yelling at the kids like, hey, sticks up, all this stuff. And they were responding to me. And so anyway, he ended up telling me, I was like, hey man, if you need me in the next game, let me know. He's like, no, you're on the bench with me every time now. So I just, and I would take either side. It didn't matter. He was the main guy in the middle, right? Going over the strategy. And again, I just didn't overstep my bounds, right? So when we went, and by the end of the season, me and the other, like the one guy, the main coach, he couldn't make the last tournament. So we ended up, me and this other dad, we ended up coaching. Now this other dad had playing experience. He's a pretty loud guy, big guy. So he ended up, to kind of taking the reins, but we shared it. And, I ended up giving like a nice little pep talk to them, and I really enjoyed it. We won a tournament this thing. We placed, second and third a couple times. And we it was a great time for the kids and great learning experience. So that's what it's about. So that's what's made me fall in love with this game even more. I love coaching. So when I seen the nomination for VP of player development came up, I just thought that would be a perfect position, especially with this channel, right? Like, because this is the thing with all the connections that I'm building, I'm hoping, like I said, to be able to, if I see somebody with talent, because again, I just told you, like I've there was about 3, 4, 5 kids that were really, really good on our team. So like if I could get them, eventually if they continue with lacrosse and stuff, if I can see a kid that's, I just know that just needs to be seen, I can get his stuff to the right people. So that's kind of why I threw my hat in the ring for this. Whether I get it, I don't know, because I really don't have enough. I don't think I have enough experience for it, right? I'm not a corporate guy, right? I'm very blue collar for the most part. So, but we'll see what happens. If nobody else applies for it, I'll definitely get it. But if somebody does and I don't get it, it is what it is. I'll just kind of, hey, if you need anything else, let me know. So that's just the best way to be, man. Just have the positive energy and all that stuff, and just keep growing this game. That's all it's about. Another thing I'd like to do on this channel as well, or in this podcast, start bringing people in. Obviously, this is my first episode, so I just want to get on here by myself. But I would like to bring some people in, some players, some coaches, maybe some local guys from the area, whatever. I know I can fill the spots. I already talked to a couple guys who are playing in the NLL that they told me, if once you get your podcast going, if it's good, and I can't blame them. If it's good, then be open to coming on. So even if I could get them on for 10 minutes and just talk and kind of give that extra perspective, I think it'd be a really awesome time. You know what I mean? And again, the more these guys are exposed, the more superstardom they can build, and I hope to help them as much as they're going to help me. You know what I mean? I'm hoping to help their careers the best way I can. So, that's kind of my long-term growth of this channel, is hopefully to be able to just continue to build this lacrosse community and help people get eyes on this sport, because it is such a great sport. What makes lacrosse so much more unique than other sports is, first off, the personalities of these players are just different than other sports. They actually have personalities. Like, go watch a lacrosse interview after. These guys are hilarious, man. And you don't really get that in hockey, a little bit more in football and basketball, but I find hockey so generic with their answers a lot of times. They don't have a lot of personality. It's starting to change a little bit. I find like Biz has really changed the mindset of that. But I do think the lacrosse has some guys that are characters, man, that are entertaining, that could they're just funny guys. You know what I mean? And the other thing I love about this game too is the culture that goes behind this. Like my nephew, man, the way he talks about lacrosse, and he's a native kid, right? He rain dances. He talks about it like it's not a game, right? It's about entertaining the elders. And that's really what it was about, right? Back in the day. It was about getting out there and entertaining your elders, and by playing a game. It's just the culture of this sport. There's nothing like this in any other sport, and that's what I think makes it special. And that's what and I love how the league is very into, like, it's very respectful of that, I find anyway, right? Now, if you have a different opinion, again, I'm a new fan, I don't know, but from what I've seen, very respectful. They have Indigenous nights. I've seen every one of these people post Orange Shirt Day, right? And I just think it's amazing. It's a great way to show respect for the game and to teach the next generation about this game, because it is the oldest game, and it's the game that never sits still, and that's why I absolutely love it. So at this point, I think we've got to go to the final buzzer at this, because I'm definitely I'm talking your ear off at this point. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you watching. I'll be continuing to bring lots of lacrosse content here, and it's just to continue to grow this game is my main goal. So if you're a part of that, and you keep watching this, and you share this, and you like this, and you comment or whatever, I absolutely appreciate you, right? And I hope to build a community here that we can, like, I'm just a regular guy, right? So if I'm hoping when I go to games, I can, meet with a couple fans or whatever. I don't want to say fans, but like, fans of my show or whatever, fans of my content, and just talk lacrosse, because in the end of the day, guys, there's not a lot of us around, right? So it's kind of nice when you do find somebody that you really likes lacrosse like this at this level, because you can talk to somebody and nobody else talks to you. So it's one of those things that it's so nice to be able to have a community that you can get it out to. I've got a Discord that I'll be starting. Well, I've already started it technically, but I just haven't sent any invites. We've got a Discord that we're going to be starting. We've got I've got my channels, so go give X a follow, Anything Lacrosse, or the Anything Lacrosse Show on X, Anything Lacrosse on TikTok, and then I'm kind of not really, like, I do have Instagram, but I don't use it all that much yet. But go give me a follow on the socials if you can, if you like my content on X. I post every day on X, sometimes multiple times a day, just kind of my thoughts, bubble. So other than that, guys, I really appreciate you coming. So my next episode, I'll be probably talking more CBA. Hopefully the next time I do a podcast, the CBA will be all done, and we can move on with our lives, and we can be talking free agency, and where these players are going to end up, and how the schedule looks, where what we'll be doing an analysis, and I'll be doing my predictions on the whole season. We'll do the whole season, and we'll break down each team. And we'll go through each team, and we'll decide who's going to win and what. And we'll see at the end of the season how I did and how bad you guys can roast me. This is the Anything Lacrosse Show. I'm Jake MacDonald. Thanks for coming today, and we'll see you next time.
You an addict?
Yeah.
And what is it you are addicted to?
Rap though, 24 shell cases on